Hi, I'm Marcia. It's unusual circumstances that lead us not to meet tonight, or probably for a couple of weeks in the future, because of the social distancing that's being urged to control the spread of COVID-19, the new coronavirus. Let's start by seeing my dog Mojo. Come here, Mojo. Come here, honey. Come on. Oh, Mojo. Come on. Yeah. Let's show everybody how beautiful you are. Mojo. Mojo. Hi. Hi. He's camera shy. Let's start this evening by taking just a few moments of silence together to center ourselves. Taking a few deep breaths and letting any tension that might be present in the body drain away with each out breath. Being present with whatever is for you in this moment. Perhaps it's your breath. Perhaps it's some physical sensation in the body. Perhaps it's a sound. Whatever may be true for you in this moment, embracing it. I want to talk tonight about living with uncertainty. I think this whole society has been plunged into uncertainty by the events of the last week or so, or 2 weeks, as the new coronavirus, COVID-19, has disrupted our lives. And we have reason to fear because it's an unknown virus. We don't really yet know the mortality rate. We know the mortality rate is higher than the flu. And we don't know how widely it's going to spread. The thought behind closing things down for a couple of weeks is to try to stop this rapid spread so that our hospitals don't get overwhelmed. So we're protecting each other by staying home, by not gathering. But uncertainty is always uncomfortable. We cling to the notion that we can control things in our lives because control is more comfortable, or the illusion of control is more comfortable than the reality of uncertainty. The Buddha taught that the first of the 3 characteristics of existence is impermanence, or in Pali, the language that the Buddhist teachings were first written down in, anicca. Everything is changing. Everything that is conditioned is constantly changing. We think that what is familiar and what has been the pattern of our lives for years is fixed, and yet it can be disrupted so quickly, overthrown by uncertainty, by not knowing what the future holds. When our plans and expectations are overthrown, we tend to feel angry, frustrated, sad. And it's important to honor those feelings. That embracing uncertainty doesn't mean being unfeeling. Embracing uncertainty means accepting that that is the underlying truth of our existence. When our plans are disrupted, we may feel great sadness if we were going to see loved ones that now we can't see. Or we may feel anger if we were really looking forward to something and now we won't get to do it. This is where mindfulness comes in. The practice of mindfulness is what helps us embrace uncertainty. Being mindful of what it feels like when uncertainty hits us in the face. Being mindfully present to whatever emotion might arise. Working with it in the body. Being aware of the physical sensations in the body that accompany whatever emotion arises. The author Tony Robbins says, the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty you can comfortably deal with. I'm going to say it again. The quality of your life is in direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty you can comfortably deal with. There's always going to be uncertainty. That's not the problem. It's how we deal with it that creates the problems. Oh, the way we learn to deal with the uncertainty is the practice of mindfulness, being present to whatever emotions arise in the face of uncertainty. The monk Ajahn Brahm, who seems to be Australian. I listened to a Dharma talk by him today for the first time, and he's a wonderful teacher. He talks about how, well, he gives a metaphor. He says, imagine that you come home and somebody has dumped a large load of dung in front of your front door. Actually, he says, let's not pretty it up. Let's call it what it is, cow shit. So somebody's dumped a huge pile of cow shit in front of your front door. What are you going to do? You can't find anybody who will haul it away for you. You're stuck with it. And Ajahn Brahm makes a reference to karma. You don't know what you've done in the past, but there's some reason someone has dumped this large load of cow shit in front of your front door. Said there are two kinds of people. The first person loads it up in his pockets, in his stuffing it down his pants, stuffing it inside his jacket. He loads himself up with cow shit. So everywhere he goes, he smells like cow shit. And people don't want to see him. They are not happy to see him and to smell him and to encounter him. The other person is more wise. The other person gradually, a little bit at a time, digs it into his garden and feeds the flowers and the fruit trees with the cow shit. And soon he has a garden full of beautiful flowers that are fragrant. Passers-by stop to exclaim at the beauty and to enjoy the fragrance. The fruit trees are blooming and bearing fruit abundantly. This person is giving apples to everyone he meets because the apple tree is bearing so fruitfully. It's a different response to the same underlying experience of the unpleasantness of having cow shit dumped on your front step. Ajahn Brahm says that anything in life can be used. And when you use the cow shit as fertilizer for your garden, the people around you too share the fruit of your garden, the shit of your life. Accept it, grow from it, share its fruits. The existential Buddhist, whose name seems to be Noah Rashida, cites research by Caltech researchers in which they took images of people's brains as the people were forced to make increasingly risky bets. They found that the less information the subjects had to go on, the more irrational and erratic their decisions became. You might think that the less information you had to go on, the more careful and considered your decisions would be. But that doesn't seem to be the way our brains work. And he cites the psychologist Jonathan Haidt, who wrote the book, The Happiness Hypothesis. And Jonathan Haidt talks about how human beings have two sides, an analytical side that is controlled and rational, and that side he calls the writer. And then the emotional side, which is automatic and irrational, and that side Haidt calls the elephant. So the decisions you make, the choices you make, decides on who's in control, the rational writer or the erratic and emotional elephant. And you can expect that when you are in a time of great uncertainty, you're going to lean toward the elephant, and you're going to have to work hard to bring the rider into play, to guide the elephant wisely. Because uncertainty feels awful. It feels like things are out of control, which they are, but we tend not to acknowledge that we're not in control of everything. And so knowing that, I actually don't like that metaphor. I think elephants are pretty rational beings. But knowing that you're going to be making decisions more from your emotional side than from your rational side, more from the limbic system, the amygdala, that part of the brain that reacts with fear and anxiety, that the amygdala is going to be more in control than the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that sits up behind your eyes, and that is the rational executive decision-making function. So knowing that you're going to be making decisions more from your emotional side, it helps to step back and take that mindful moment to calm yourself and to remind yourself that just because we're aware of the uncertainty doesn't mean that anything is different from yesterday or the day before or the day before that. That yes, we are uncertain. The whole society is uncertain in this moment of time. But our best bet is to bring our rational minds, which means to bring our mindfulness, to anchor in our breath, to remain centered or become centered again. We talked last week, I think, about faith and about how faith in Buddhism means trust in the practice, trust in the process. When you have that kind of faith that no matter what happens, it will be all right, it's a lot easier to deal with uncertainty. Whether bad things happen or good things happen. In the first place, we never know as it's happening what's good and what's bad. Our first evaluation of whether an event is good or bad often turns out to be wrong. I'm reminded of the joke I learned when I was a child about there's a man in a plane. Oh, that's good. No, it's not good. The engine on the plane stops working. Oh, that's bad. No, it's good. He has a parachute. Oh, that's good. No, it's bad. The parachute won't open. Oh, that's bad. No, it's good. He lands in a haystack. Oh, that's good. No, that's bad. There's a pitchfork in the haystack. When I was 7, I could make that joke go a whole lot longer, but I think you get the point already. It is reminiscent of a Taoist teaching story about a man who has one son, and the son breaks his leg. Oh, that's bad. No, that's good, because the army recruiters come to town. There's a war on, and they sweep up all the able-bodied men to go to serve as soldiers. But the son doesn't have to go because he has a broken leg. Oh, that's good. No, that's bad. The invaders overrun the village and he's the only one left to fight them. Oh, that's bad. I've actually forgotten why it's good, but there is some reason why it's good. The Taoists were making the point that we don't know as the events of our lives unfold which events are good and which events are bad, and refraining from judging is the wisest course. But nonetheless, as events unfold, some do seem bad to us and some seem good because of their effects in the immediate moment. And being firmly planted in a Buddhist practice gives us confidence and faith that whether the events that unfold are events that are pleasant or events that are unpleasant or events that are neutral, we can greet them with the same equanimity. And if equanimity is not what arises, we can be present with whatever arises until we arrive at equanimity. Equanimity is a state of balance where we're not pulled off to one side or the other by craving or by aversion, but remain centered. And when you're in a state of equanimity, you're aware that bad things are unfolding or unpleasant things are unfolding. And yet, you don't follow on to the next step in the chain of dependent origination. You don't follow on into aversion, but stay firmly planted in equanimity. And because you don't follow on into aversion, there is no suffering. There may be pain, but there is no suffering. Without craving, without aversion, without delusion, there is no suffering. You can be aware that what's happening is unpleasant or pleasant or neutral without falling into craving or aversion or delusion. And that means suffering never arises. Whatever arises, you can be present to it, even if it's a load of cow shit dumped on your front step. Whatever arises, we can calm ourselves through mindfulness practice. We can calm ourselves through loving kindness practice, so that the choices that we make from a place of wisdom and compassion. Wisdom in knowing that everything is always changing, everything conditioned is always changing. Compassion in knowing that we can open our heart to whatever is and embrace whatever arises. Ajahn Brahm says that when he was a young man, his father said to him, "The door of my heart is open to you, son, no matter where you go or what you do." That's amazing to me. I didn't grow up with unconditional love. I think my parents would have wanted to be unconditionally loving to me if they'd been capable of that, but they weren't. So the thought of having my father or my mother say to me, "The door of my heart is open to you, son or daughter, no matter where you go or what you do." It moves me very much. And Ajahn Brahm is suggesting that we can keep the door to our hearts open to life, whatever unfolds in this uncertain life. We can greet it with an open heart. That doesn't mean we repress our grief or our anger over the loss of what could have been. It means we hold it, whatever unfolds, in mindfulness. As Thich Nhat Hanh says, we hold it in mindfulness the way a mother holds a crying baby, with love, with tenderness, with caring. And we hold ourselves that way too. Whatever our fears are, we hold ourselves in tenderness and openness of heart and compassion. Whether you're afraid for yourself because you fall into one of the high-risk categories or more than one of the high-risk categories for contracting a serious case of COVID-19, or whether you're afraid for the people you love, for your elders, holding that fear in loving kindness and compassion, knowing that that fear is rooted in love. Holding the people you're afraid of. I'm sorry. Now that's a Freudian slip. Talking about my parents and then talking about people I'm afraid of. What I meant to say is the people you're afraid for, holding them in caring and tenderness and compassion. This is a good time to be doing compassion meditation, starting with the people you love, moving to yourself, and then to a neutral person, and then to a difficult person, and then to all beings. And so in a compassion meditation, you would start by doing loving kindness meditation. May you be happy and peaceful. May you be healthy and strong. And then you'd move into compassion phrases. May you be at peace, whatever transpires. May you be free from suffering. May you be happy and peaceful. May you be healthy and strong. May you be at peace with whatever transpires. May you be free from suffering. Ajahn Brahm talks about how the unplanned occurrences, the unpredictable, the unwanted occurrences can be a source of joyful memories. He tells a story about a wedding that he did, where he got to the end and told the newly married couple they could kiss each other, and someone called out from the audience, "Ajahn Brahm, you forgot the exchange of rings." And how now that's everybody's favorite memory of that wedding. I always tell couples when I do weddings for them that if something goes wrong, not to worry. It will be their favorite memory 20 years from now. When Greg and I got married, the wedding was outside in front of a lovely little pool with water lilies in it. But there were a couple of kids who were specifically not invited to the wedding who showed up. Troublesome kids. Kids who were always in trouble, who were playing in the water lily pond right behind the minister, playing noisily. And the minister stopped and turned around and looked solemnly at the kids. Perhaps not solemnly, perhaps in a minatory manner, sending them the message that they were to be quiet and not play in the water lily pool while the vows were exchanged. But Greg, who didn't realize that's what the minister was doing, thought that the silence meant he was supposed to have memorized his vows. And so he was going, no, Arvid, that was the minister's name. Arvid, I haven't memorized my vows. Arvid, I don't know my vows. In retrospect, it's pretty funny, even to Greg. Ajahn Brahm also tells the story of a funeral that he presided over in Thailand, where there's a track, I can't think what they're called, like at the baggage carousel at the airport, a moving track that you would put the coffin on, and when you hit the switch, the coffin would be moved off into whatever the next building was. Maybe it was a crematorium, I'm not sure. But at this one funeral, the grieving wife had made a coffin in the shape of a canoe with oars on top of it. And it was heavier than coffins normally are, so that when they hit the switch, the track was straining and straining, struggling to try to move, but it couldn't because the coffin was too heavy. It got stuck right in front of the door that it was supposed to exit out of. And so the grieving wife jumped onto the coffin and was trying to push it through the door. But her weight actually made it harder for the coffin to move. And somebody yelled, I'm looking at my notes for the punchline, somebody yelled from the gathered throng, "Are you that desperate to get rid of the guy?" And it's the most memorable funeral Ajahn Brahm has ever been part of. Oh, even in the midst of COVID-19, there will be moments of humor. There will be moments of beauty. Even in the concentration camp. In the Nazi concentration camps, Viktor Frankl writes of moments of beauty. And in opening our hearts to what is, we're opening our hearts to the beauty as well as to the struggle. What it comes down to is that what causes our suffering isn't the impermanence itself. What causes our suffering is our reaction to the impermanence. It's our foolishness in thinking that life would always be predictable. And the resistance that we feel upon finding out that that was a false assumption. Whether we're craving things that we'll miss in the next few weeks or longer. I know a friend of mine has canceled her wedding. Children are canceling their piano recitals, their dance recitals, football games that young players were looking forward to, business meetings that mattered. All kinds of things are on hold for now. So our suffering may be rooted in craving for what we won't get to do, won't get to have, the experiences we won't get to have, or whether our suffering is rooted in aversion, in fear, in anger, that we're not going to get our own way. Or whether our suffering is rooted in delusion, in thinking that these measures are too drastic, that the coronavirus isn't that big a thing. Whichever of the three defilements our suffering is rooted in, or whatever mixture of them our suffering is rooted in. Our suffering isn't because of the impermanence. It's because of the craving, the aversion, the delusion. And we know what to do when we become aware of craving, aversion, and delusion. We turn to mindfulness. Holding ourselves in tender, caring love. Holding ourselves in present moment, non-judgmental awareness. As whatever is to be unfolds. Let's end with a few minutes of loving kindness meditation for ourselves, moving into meditation for the people we love, and from there moving into meditation for all beings, all those people affected already by COVID-19, all those people who become affected by COVID-19 in the days and weeks and months to come. If you hear snoring, that's my dog. Taking a few moments to center, to let go of any tension that there might be in your body. And centering your awareness on the breath at the abdomen, at the chest, or at the nostrils. Now imagining that you yourself, when you were a child, are sitting on your own lap, encircled by your own arms. With your hearts wide open, to this young being. Feeling with him or her their joy or their sorrow, whatever it is that you and they are both feeling in this moment. Visualizing their face and their young body, their face turned up to you as you hug them. And letting your heart be flooded by love. Inclining your heart toward loving kindness for yourself, no matter what you're feeling in this moment. Repeating each phrase over and over again. May I be safe and protected from harm. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be healthy and strong. May I be free from suffering. And now visualizing a person or persons or animals whom you love. Making the image of them as vivid and graphic and detailed as you can, and holding the image in your mind as we do loving kindness meditation for them. Inclining our hearts toward loving kindness for this beloved person or animal, or these beloved people or animals. May you be safe and protected from harm. May you be happy and peaceful. May you be healthy and strong. May you be free from suffering. And now, expanding the group of people and animals that you wish to send loving kindness to. Adding people and animals that you know, and those that you don't know. Inclining your heart towards loving kindness for all beings. May you be safe and protected from harm. May you be happy and peaceful. May you be healthy and strong. May you be free from suffering. Thank you all.